Hello, and thank you for tuning in to Far Above Rubies today. I'm so very glad that each of you are here. Today we're continuing our walk through lesson 3 of our Bible study called Uncovered. If you have missed lessons up to this point, please make sure you go back and catch up because there's incredible information that you will want to have as we move forward, okay? We are in lesson 3 talking about the topic creation and the garden, and today we are specifically talking about the Garden of Eden, okay? When God created the first man and woman, Adam and Eve, he placed them in a garden in the land of Eden. The word Eden means delight or enjoyment. How beautiful is that? The garden of delight and enjoyment. Adam and Eve were placed in the garden to tend to the garden and to enjoy the presence of each other and God. The Garden of Eden was a place where everything was provided for Adam and Eve, including fellowship or relationship, intimacy with God himself. God gave them only one commandment to follow as they lived in the Garden of Eden so that they could continue to live in this beautiful place he had given them. Genesis chapter 2 verses 16 and 17 tell us what that commandment is. It says, "But the Lord God warned him," speaking of Adam, "you may freely eat the fruit of every tree in the garden except the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. If you eat this fruit, you are sure to die." You would think that would be a really easy commandment to follow, right? Let's see. Although they knew God's command and what was right, it wasn't long before they fell into temptation and disobeyed God. In Genesis chapter 3, verses 1 through 6, we see this happen. Let's read it together. "The serpent was the shrewdest of all the wild animals the Lord God had made. One day he asked the woman, 'Did God really say you must not eat the fruit from any of the trees in the garden?' 'Of course we may eat the fruit from the trees in the garden,' the woman replied. 'It's only the fruit from the tree in the middle of the garden we are not allowed to eat. God said you must not eat it or even touch it. If you do, you will die.' 'You won't die,' the serpent replied to the woman. 'God knows that your eyes will be opened as soon as you eat it, and you will be like God, knowing both good and evil.' The woman was convinced. She saw that the tree was beautiful and its fruit looked delicious, and she wanted the wisdom it would give her. So she took some of the fruit and ate it. Then she gave some to her husband who was with her, and he ate it too." This was the very first sin of mankind. Do you know what the word sin means? It's something we throw around in Christian culture, but if you're new to faith, you may not actually know what sin is. You know it's bad, but you may not know what sin is. Sin actually means to miss the mark or to do wrong, okay? Sin isn't necessarily going out and murdering somebody. That's a sin, but that's not what sin looks like. Sin is to miss the mark, to miss God's glorious standard for our lives, okay? To miss the mark, to do wrong. We understand what that means, okay? I want you to notice the role that the serpent or the devil plays in influencing us to sin. We're going to read 1 John chapter 2, verses 15 through 17 together, okay? And it says this, "Do not love this world, nor the things it offers you. For when you love the world, you do not have the love of the Father in you. For the world suffers only a craving for physical pleasure, a craving for everything we see, and pride in our achievements and possessions. These are not from the Father, but are from this world. And this world is fading away along with everything that people crave. But anyone who does what pleases God will live forever." What a simple and beautiful promise. Anyone that does what pleases God will live forever. The 3 areas the devil uses to lead humans into disobedience towards God are this. Number 1, the lust of the flesh, the desire to feel. The tree was good for food. It was going to be satisfying to the flesh, okay? Number 2, the lust of the eyes, the desire to have what we see. It was pleasant to the eyes. Number 3, the pride of life, the desire to be something, okay? A tree desirable to make one wise. All three of these temptation areas can be found in Eden, in the Eden account, and should be reminders to us of how the enemy works against us. All right, the enemy is going to come at you with temptation. That's just part of this broken, fallen world. Since that moment in the Garden of Eden that we face, that the enemy walks into our lives and tries to tempt us with our flesh to do what feels good instead of what we know is right. And that, I know that just rang in someone's ears just now. He tempts us to do what feels good. Well, it's a little early for church. I'm going to stay home because I'll feel better. I'll get more rest. My body will be more satisfied, okay? I've had a busy day and I'm too tired to go to church, to go to prayer gathering, to go to Bible study. I want to do what feels good, all right? And that's just the very basest of areas we can give into our flesh and lust after something, okay? The lust of the eyes. That is something that both men and women deal with. I want to have something. That could be a sexual temptation. It could be something that we're being greedy about, something that we are envying that another person has in our lives. We want to have what is not ours to have. And then the pride of life. We want to be something. We want to make something of ourselves. We want to depend on our own self, our own abilities, our own talents, our own giftings, which, by the way, all come from God, to make ourselves something, okay? So that we can be respected, admired, so that we can be looked upon favorably. Those three areas are areas we still deal with today in the enemy coming into our lives and trying to get us to make decisions that go against the heart of God and are self-serving. If we are serving self, friend, we are not properly serving God. End of story. I could keep going. I won't. We are tomorrow going to be talking about sin brings death. We're going to talk about the consequences of giving in to that temptation, okay? Make sure that you tune back in with me tomorrow. If no one has told you lately, you are loved and you are cherished and you are valuable. You have beautiful and tremendous worth, my sweet friend, and that worth is far above rubies. Thank you so much, and I'll see you then. God bless you.